Hey there everyone, what's up? I am back today with Damage Die and the Impressions video. So today we are, yeah, we're going to look at Kagero or Deception 4 on the PS Vita. And this is also on the PS3 for those who are interested in the PS3 version. I guess they're the same though, so it doesn't really matter. But I prefer the Vita version, so I got the Vita version. So we're playing on the Vita, and that's what we're talking about. So let's see. This game, it's Deception 4. It's the fourth game in the series. It's not... the naming for this game is all screwed up. In English, it's Deception 4, but like in Japanese, it's Kagero 2. No, it's Kagero 3. Kagero 2 is on the PS2. And then there's like... I don't know. It's a kind of weird that the names are really different, because one of the English games is called Kagero also, but it's Deception 2 Kagero or something. And you know, it's a mess. But this one in Japanese is Kagero Dark Side Princess. I don't know the English title. I just know it's Deception 4, and it's probably also Dark Side Princess, but I could be wrong. Anyway, let's talk about this game. So basically, this game is somewhat like a strategy RPG, but not really. I say that because it does start out as a kind of grid-based map, but you're not stuck on the grid. You run around various rooms that are themed rooms with traps, and each of the rooms has various like their own traps in the rooms, and plus your character, the eponymous Dark Side Princess, is able to generate traps at will. So basically you open a menu, the grid base comes up for the thing, and you place the maps where you want to on the thing to catch enemies who are trying to attack you. So essentially you're just running around the map trying to get enemies to come over your traps so you can set them off and hopefully make a giant combo to kill your enemies. But that's the very basic gameplay of the game. I mean, it's relatively simple actually. You have your kind of areas with their own kind of environmental traps that you can also use for bonus points, plus your own traps, and there are a lot of traps in the game. So when you start out, you don't have that many, but as you progress through the story, you can unlock more and more traps. And there are three types of traps. You have your kind of embarrassment traps, and I'm trying to think of what these names are. I'm not even going to bother, because I know whatever I'm translating in my head is going to be different from whatever the actual translation is going to be in English. So I'll just tell you by the color, and you'll know what I'm talking about when you actually pick up the game. There's yellow, which are the kind of embarrassment traps, and there's blue and red, which are different types of traps. And they'll have actual English names. I don't want to give you some. I don't want to say what I'm gonna say and then have it be wrong. So, but there are three types of traps, and they're various types. The red ones are kind of, you know, gross. Like there'll be lots of bladed spinning blades and things like that. And then the blue ones are things like swinging hammers and trap floors and things. There are different types of and each of the three types of traps has their own like wall-based traps, ceiling-based traps, and floor-based traps, but they're all different. So you'll have like your kind of embarrassing traps where a pumpkin will fall from the ceiling and land on your enemy's head, and they'll be like all confused, walking around with their pumpkin head like this, and you can lure them that way into other traps. So basically, when you have these areas, you'll have different characters attacking you, plus usually goals set up for each type of trap, and then you have a kind of secondary goal for each character in armor to break their armor. The armor break, it's not necessary, but it's important, and you should do it as much as you can, but it's not necessary. You can go through the entire game without armor breaking anybody except the first person you have to armor break in the tutorial. And the tutorial's optional, so like technically you don't have to armor break anybody. But you should learn how to armor break people because it's important for the story. And we'll get into that. The story is actually, it's not that long. I think playing through the whole story On the first playthrough, it didn't take that long. It only took a couple hours. It's like put into 12 story sections. I think it's 12. It might be 14. It's probably 12 though. And each section is split into usually 3 parts. And you have various enemies that come in kind of waves. So sometimes it'll just be one enemy at a time, and sometimes it'll be up to 3 at a time. So it gets kind of hectic in some cases. And you have a bunch of rooms, but they kind of change throughout the story. So you're in like one building with multiple rooms, and then like partway through the story you'll go to a different building with multiple rooms, and so on and so forth until you end. I think there's three different buildings, and I'm not sure how many rooms are in each one. 6 to 8, I think. I'm just guessing. That's just off the top of my head. Obviously, I didn't take notes for this, but the game itself is it's a lot of fun, actually. I had a lot of fun playing it. The story is interesting, but it's not like super like you're going to be really into the story. But there are some cool things that happen. This is what happens, like, there are choices you can make in the story, but most of them are not really choices that do anything. But there are some cases where there are 4 endings to the game, and there's obviously different paths to take. So you can go through the stages doing your kind of normal story clearing. And the first time I think I got the worst ending because I missed the kind of key point in the game that you were supposed to do at a certain point, which involves breaking somebody's armor, and I just didn't break their armor at that one point. So if you don't do that, you get the kind of quote-unquote bad ending. There's not really a bad ending, but I mean, considering your goals in the game, the bad ending is pretty much your goal. I mean, it's not really a bad ending, but there are different endings. We'll say 4 different endings, and I've only seen 2 of them, so I've got like the best ending and the worst ending, I guess, out of those. But I haven't seen the 2 medium endings. But I think I'll probably go back and do those because the levels aren't that long. And I'm saying, like, the game isn't that long. You could probably beat it in 4 hours, I'd say. But I think don't let that turn you off. It's not the main story is just kind of it's there, and you can play through it multiple times, and you probably will because it is fun. But I think a lot of the game comes in the challenge missions, and there are 100 challenge missions in the game, so you have a varying difficulty, obviously. But you'll play through the story and learn how to use the rooms, and you get used to them, and then afterwards you have 100 challenge missions to clear from. I haven't done them all, but I've done a big chunk of them. And the challenge missions are essentially like you're on one stage and you have some kinds of conditions to meet to beat the stage. So sometimes it's beat this enemy within a few minutes, or beat this enemy with a certain score, or beat this enemy doing a certain amount of damage in a certain amount of time. And there's tons of different requirements for those. So you'll play through and you'll find like they get harder and harder, and sometimes like even the really easy ones end up being really hard if you're not like paying attention to what is in the environment and what you can use and how you can use it. So it makes the game a lot of fun. Just playing the challenge missions was like, for me, it felt like the main part of the game, even though it didn't have a story. It's just you take all the game mechanics that you learned in the story and apply them to the challenge missions. And I guess you could just go back and forth between those, but in my opinion it would be easier to go through the story, unlock as many traps as you can, and then do the challenge missions, which is how I did it. And I did unlock all the traps. After you unlock them all, you can continue playing and upgrade the traps for bonuses each trap has a different type of bonus depending on which trap it is. But it's pretty nice. There are some kind of, they're not like bugs, but there are some trap setups that you can make that you can just make infinite loop of traps. So in many times I found that like I would go to some stages and I'd be like, well, I can make an infinite loop right here, and just make an infinite loop and then slightly adjust it every time to catch all of the enemies in the infinite loop. So it's hard because after you set out the traps once, the enemies will know where the traps are and they'll try to avoid those positions. Some of them will. Some of them are really stupid and they'll just keep running over the same ones. Usually the heavily armored knights are really dumb that way. But many of the kind of more intelligent enemies will automatically avoid those spots if they know there's a trap there. So it'll be hard to catch them more than once. So lots of times you want to make big damage traps, kind of trap combos to beat the enemies in either one go, or you'll have to modify them slightly so that they catch in different areas so you can get the enemies. And the bosses will, for the most part, avoid your traps after the first time they show up, even if you miss. And like that's important because sometimes they'll do charge attacks that run right over your stuff really quickly, and you won't be able to catch them. And if you miss, you got to redo your trap. So it does take a bit of skill and timing, but it's also about building a kind of trap mechanism. It's like a gruesome kind of Rube Goldberg machine, and you're building it, which is cool. It's really cool because like you'll have times where like you'll build the traps and they'll move the enemy around and bounce them through the traps, and then you can end them on a kind of environmental hazard. So sometimes there's falling things, falling walls or falling pillars, or there's sometimes torture devices that you can throw the enemies into and they'll be like electrocuted or burned or something. And it's really quite fun. I had a lot of fun with this game, even though it's not that long. But again, I probably put, I don't know, 20 hours into this so far, but I'm not finished with everything. Haven't finished all the challenge missions, but you know, that 20 hours is about me clearing the story twice and then playing a ton of challenge missions. And then there's another element that's the online element, which isn't like online against other people. It's you can create, there's kind of a map editor, so you'll create your own challenge maps, and you have to beat your own challenge map to upload it, so it can't be something that's impossible. But basically you create a challenge map and upload it, and other people will do that, and you can download those challenge maps. So there's actually quite a bit online because there's trophies related to building those maps, so there actually is a big stock already to choose from, and I think a lot of people will be building those just to get the trophies. But it does kind of make people want to play those because you get trophies for downloading and clearing those too. So it does kind of create an automatic community of those people making those maps. And I actually would encourage you to do that because it is fun to make your own kind of challenge maps and have people test them out and rate them or whatever. I had a lot of fun doing that. So I put about 20 hours into this, and I'm playing something else. So I stopped playing that because something else is in the Vita. But I probably will go back to this actually because the challenge missions are an interesting puzzle. Essentially, this is like a really gruesome puzzle game, and it's a fun one. So I definitely recommend this game right here, Deception 4 or Kagero, depending on your region. So yeah, that's about it for this Impressions video. It's not that long, which is surprising. So anyway, I will catch you guys when I have more Impressions videos coming, but I have to charge my battery and do some other stuff. So before then, this one is going up, but there'll be more soon. I'm going to try to do a bunch today and upload them as I go because this isn't so hot. It's not that fun. So I'm going to try and get a bunch done today and not worry about the future. But anyway, I will see you guys